There's a series of policy questions, I think, that have to be answered by the public at large as to what they want from the police and how they feel the police should operate.
I was arrested during the summer of 1964 approximately 20 times.
Do you think that there's some kind of problem the police are trying to get at, or what?
I think it's more or less personal. I don't think it's to obtain the law or to uphold the law.
Every time I was arrested on this law, impersonation for purpose of lewd act or intent to deceive for the purpose of defraud, it would result in the loss of my job.
Many people would be concerned as to just why a policeman or the police department should be particularly concerned.
I feel that all my life I have had the feeling of being a female entrapped in the body of a male.
I read Dr. Benjamin's book, The Transsexual Phenomena.
I guess we should point out that you're certainly not a young social worker who's joined the police force. You've had a lot of experience with the police.
And then I came to Central City and met Elliot Blackstone and talked to him and discussed this with him.
I was arrested in the city of San Francisco. We were isolated in a position where we had just each other to talk to, and I was told about Elliot Blackstone's group of kids that he had in the transsexual organization of COG.
When a transsexual is arrested, they're treated very poorly by the officer, denied privileges that the other inmates have.
I was placed in a cell, deprived of all privileges, because I wouldn't get a haircut.
And I wonder why it's more unsanitary for a transsexual to have long hair than for a woman to have long hair.
I think that they're trying to break you down mentally.
If a policeman is to be successful, he almost have a value in his approach to people.
I always knew that I wanted to be a woman.
About a year before the Stonewall riots, this program titled Transsexuals and the Police aired on KPFA in San Francisco on April 10, 1968. KPFA was a very progressive radio station from its very beginning. The station won a Peabody Award for programming that criticized McCarthyism. They brought beats to the airwaves with Allen Ginsberg. The state attorney general impounded tape discussing marijuana on the air. And back in 1950, the station owner went on the air to proclaim his resistance to the Korean War, like right after he launched his radio station. They also aired the first known radio program to overtly discuss homosexuality. That archival audio will be on my bonus podcast tomorrow. As listeners of this podcast know, this show is all about chronologically telling the story of the movement, and I had planned on releasing this archival audio as an episode of my bonus podcast on Patreon, but today, in 2020, people all over the country are marching for Black transgender lives and to protest the brutal ways police treat our trans siblings of color. I thought this audio should be heard now instead of waiting until the podcast story reaches 1968. This audio is 52 years old, and many of the issues discussed between the moderator, 3 trans women, and a police officer are still issues we're dealing with today. And this is not a confrontational debate. The officer in the conversation is Elliot Blackstone. Blackstone was a police liaison to the gay and trans community of San Francisco, appointed after the raid on California Hall and the Compton's cafeteria riots. Put a pin in those, of course. Blackstone was yet another example of how San Francisco was often the exception to the rule. He worked closely with the Daughters of Bilitis, the Mattachine Society, and the Council for Religion on the Homosexual. He taught community policing courses, changed policies to help transgender people, taught sensitivity training to police officers. He took up collections at his church to pay for hormones for trans people denied by the city clinics. He is proof that if our cities would defund police departments and put their money towards social services, citizens can be helped instead of brutalized. While you're listening to this conversation, scroll down to the episode notes to see where you can donate to support Black trans lives. Happy Pride.